Hello. My name is Simone. Welcome to today's webinar. We are live here from Northern Powerwomen and the Power Collective HQ, and we are talking about something that we are so passionate about today because we just love mentoring. Everything we do is always got that connectivity and bringing people together at the heart of everything. And we know that mentoring can come in lots of shapes and forms and timescales, and that's what we want to discuss today. We know that mentoring is so absolutely vital for anyone at different parts of their career, and when you're always chatting with great role models, as we do so often over here, it's always that one person or that series of people or series of conversations that we've had along the way, that one mentor, three mentors that has helped kickstart, maintain, create a sliding doors moment. So today we're going to be looking at different types of mentoring relationships, spotlight the benefits of having short-term mentoring relationships as well, because there is no one size fits all in this, and because mentoring relationships we know can last for years and years. They don't have to, it could be 12 week, it could be speed mentoring, flash mentoring. We do these amazing monthly sessions which we call our power ups, which we know many of you that are watching today will have been part of, and that is that 1 hour speed date flash mentoring. And we also know the benefits that peer-to-peer mentoring that can bring as well. So we know the stats don't lie. There are countless reports out there that demonstrate the fundamental benefits that mentoring brings. 87% of mentors and mentees say that their mentoring relationships make them feel empowered, assist them to develop a more prominent sense of confidence in themselves. And 89% of individuals mentored will mentor someone in the future. And that kind of goes with our whole ethos that it's about giving and gaining. Everyone who can gain from a relationship, everyone wants to give back. So then why do we ask the question, why, according to Forbes, do only 37% of professionals have a mentor? And we'll be asking our panel that very question later in today. But I'm also delighted that because mentoring is so important in what we do, we're delighted to announce today that we have our Northern Powerwomen Awards taking part in March, and we have 89 shortlisted individuals for this year's awards. And we're actually creating our own 12-week mentoring program for them. So we want everyone that has been shortlisted. So it proves that everyone is always going to be a winner, that we will be inviting them to join a 12-week mentoring program starting the very day after the awards. So there's more to come on that in the coming weeks. So we want to share that with you because we want to prove that we practice what we preach. But today I am delighted to be joined by a stellar panel. What better way to spend 45 minutes than to join me in my fabulous panel? I'm joined by Jane Eckford, Karen Cross and Brandie Deignan. Welcome to today's panel, and I'm going to go to each of our panelists to just ask them to introduce themselves, because as we were saying in the green room pre-chat, it's always impossible for me to intro you because I don't know who you're going to be on this one given day, because some of you have so many, it's what you do in your role, but then it's what you do outside your role as well. Jane, can I come to you first?
Hi, lovely to see everybody today. I'm Jane Eckford. I've had a 40-year career delivering services in the public sector and across the private sector, and I now find myself as a coach and a non-executive director across a number of interests which are dear to my heart. So it's kind of mentoring in a different format, teams of people working in the not-for-profit sectors.
Oh, thanks, Jane. Thanks so much for joining us. Karen joins us today on the one. Welcome, Karen.
Thank you. Hi, my name's Karen Cross. I currently am lead for L&D in Boohoo in supply chain. I've had 20 years working in the service industry, working with retail and customers and coaching and mentoring, mainly people between 16 and 21. That's my main experience. And now moving forward into Boohoo, been here just under a year and learning much more about mentoring and the benefits of how the process works. So thank you.
And for me, I don't think there can ever be any negative benefits to mentoring. I think there's always something from every relationship, every conversation that we have that you can give or gain. Brandie, thank you for joining us today. You've been an amazing supporter of our Power Up sessions that you were doing. But Brandie, can I come to you to introduce yourself?
Certainly. Hi, everyone. My name is Brandie Deignan. I'm the Chief Exec at PL Group within NHS primary care. I've not always been in healthcare. I've been here doing what I'm doing in healthcare for a couple of years. I spent 22 years, showing my age here, in hospitality, aviation and retail. And lovely to see all of you and be here with you all today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. And there's so many different conversations. We talk about mentoring, you talk about sponsorship, we talk about coaching. How would you, in your own individual way, sort of describe sort of the differences? Karen, can I come to you first about that?
It's you've got that relationship with your mentee, and you almost sign a contract at the beginning. So it's just you two. So you feel that secure. You feel it's a relationship that you know you can go to your mentor, and it's not like a line manager relationship. Whereas coaching is slightly different, because sometimes that is your line manager. I think they're the main differences.
Thank you. What do you see, Brandie? I know you've got a wealth of experience across your sort of career and sector paths. And again, you're one of those individuals that proves there's not one straight line trajectory, the different experiences that you bring along the way. But what have you learned over your years in business and working in organizations, of the differences between mentoring and sponsorship or coaching?
Okay, so I guess the most important thing is, all of us, one of our chief wants in life as humans, is specifically around our career lives, actually, is to have someone who help us to achieve what we can. So if we've got somebody in our lives, whether formally or informally, who encourages us, who navigates us, who guides us, they are our mentors. We all love that. Another part about humans is we love being like people, wanting to aim to reach certain people, role modeling those people. Now, if we have anybody in our lives that we look up to, they are our role models. Occasionally, these kind of blur a little bit. From a coaching perspective, these are people that we go to guide us to do certain things. So, you know, they hear us and they navigate us. So I think I'm more relaxed around these coaching, role modeling, mentoring, and sponsorship. You know, sponsor somebody who mentions your name when you're not there. You know, they're your cheerleader. When it blends, it's all okay. But from a mentor, purely mentor perspective, it is when we've got somebody who allows us to see inside of ourselves through navigating and encouraging us to be wherever we want to be.
I love that. I love that the person enables you to see inside yourself. Jane, what's your view on the differentiation between these three headlines?
Well, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Which hat am I wearing at any point in a conversation? So I have been a mentor throughout my professional career, but I'm also a qualified coach. And I have also sponsored people into different roles and different opportunities. So they are all interlinked, and they all come from a position of generosity and trust, but they're all slightly different. So I would say that a mentor is someone who provides the benefit of their own experience, and it's very often in a workplace. It's helping people to learn the ropes. It's you know, here's what I did. You know, you can try that. Here's somebody I spoke to. You know, can I introduce you, kind of thing. Coaches are a bit more. The role of a coach is to try to explore with your client, very often in a more formal contracted role, sort of strategic actions, sort of some actions that you can take to get to a particular outcome. And it's a slightly different process. And actually it helps for the coach not to know the business in very many cases, because you can ask very open and stupid questions to get a strategic response. It's about really trying to get your coachee to dig within themselves to say, well, what do I actually feel about this? Or, you know, what is the reality of this situation? What action can I take? Sponsoring is slightly different. Again, I might be a senior leader in an organization, know that I need to take the organization through change. I can see young, up and coming, bright sparks who've got a different take on the world to me, and I may have no understanding at all about about their backgrounds or what they bring, but I know they're going to be really useful to my business. So I'll help them find a position and allow them to grow. So slightly different viewpoints from slightly different parts of the organization.
And I think it's good to sort of start with that, because I think sometimes it can be blurred, if you like. And I want anyone of you watching out there today, please do drop your comments and equally drop your questions into the chat function as well. And it'd be good to know, again, anyone watching out there, let us know if you've actually got a mentor. So it'd be good to know how many of you out there that mentor, and how many out there of you have a mentor. I think is really important. So who was that mentor for you as part of your experience? Brandie, where did sort of Brandie who was that person, and what was your experience? Or people, not just one person.
I mean, just start from now. Now I have 3 mentors, actually. One is a reverse mentor, and 2 are professional mentors, one of whom I've had as a mentor for a long time. I've had a mentor since my 20s. My first very mentor, I think initially I alluded to role modeling, blending with mentors. There was this amazing lady, Dame Moya Green. She was, in those days, she was the CEO at Royal Mail. I'm talking 20 something years back. And there was no Google. So you couldn't Google anybody. You could just see them on TV. And I used to watch her, and I used to go, oh, I want to be like Dame Moya. She wasn't a dame then. I want to be like Moya. So she started off being a role model for me. And then when I decided at 26 years that I wanted to be a chief exec in a large organization, I thought she would be the best person to help me get there. So I remember, Simone, it's an interesting story, really quickly. I remember taking myself to the Royal Mail office in London at reception, asking to speak to her. 2 EAs come down, a PA and an EA, going, you've got no appointment. You can't see her. And I stalked there. I said to them, I'm not going anywhere. This lady is the one that's going to get me where I need to. As it happened, she hadn't actually turned up for work then. And around sort of midday-ish, there I sat in reception. I said I wasn't going to go anywhere. Door flanks in, Moya walks in. I race to her and go, hello, I'm Brandie, 22-year-old me. You don't know me, but I need you to mentor me. I want to be a CEO. And 22 years down the line, it is history, and she's been my mentor and guided me throughout my career in all the exec roles that I've had up until now. So there's a story there about tenacity and wanting a mentor, and also there's a bit around actually sometimes it kind of bridges and blurs the role modeling, because I first saw her as a role model, and then she turned up to be a mentor for me. But like I said, I have 3 now, and one is actually a reverse mentor, so a younger person mentoring me, and 2 others.
And I think that is one of the things about, mentors come in all kind of varieties, don't they? If you like, I think that's really key. So Jane, who was that mentor? Was this something, is it a mentor you've always had, or, have you had different mentors across the way?
I have to say, I wish I had Brandie's foresight when I was starting out. It wouldn't have occurred to me to have done what Brandie did. So I fell into my career on the basis of finding a job I liked, knowing that I'd followed my husband after his career, knowing that I had some good ideas of my own, putting some of those into practice, having some agency in my own that I took rather counterculturally within my own organisation. Setting a few hairs running, people being a bit surprised that new ideas should have come from the position, from where I was sitting in the organisation. But very generously, 2 or 3 male colleagues, senior male colleagues, who are very traditionally patriarchal kind of organisation when I started off, very generously gave me their time, very generously coached me through how to position my message and where to position it, and invited me onto committees and meeting groups, and allowed me a little bit of space to try things out and to allow me to fail. And I will be forever indebted to those people. And as I grew older, I have found that people have continued to be generous, and they've been outside of my career path and outside of my organisation quite often, but they have liked me and they have respected me, and I have liked and respected them. and they will be lifelong friends now. So it's that act of generosity of people just reaching out and saying, oh, hey, I'm really interested in what you're doing. I think that's got legs, and I can see that this is purposeful work. How can I help you? Or how can I introduce you to somebody? So I think probably the skill is recognizing that this is a skill in itself. It is an art form. And because as a young person, I remember a director of social work, a female director of social work, offering me help. And me thinking, oh, I've got to stay in my tribe. I've got to stay in my own hierarchy. I'll be disloyal to my own boss. And thanking her, but not seeing it for the opportunity that it was. So I think my role in life, a bit like Brandie's enthusiasm, is to teach young people, particularly young women, that these are gifts and to take them when they arise.
Absolutely. I love that. I love the idea of that being a gift. I think I reflect on my first situation, and it was a gift, actually. It just brings that to life, Jane, a lady called Laura Morgan, and just amazing. I was pursuing her. That resilience comes back into play. I was pursuing her to speak at an event. I was organising TEDx Whitehall Women, and I remember sort of met with her, and then we went for a coffee. We ended up somewhere else. Then we ended up somewhere else because I just kept sort of staying with her because there was just that like factor I think is really important. I've not thought of that before. And in the end, she just we ended up back in her flat, which seems strange. She shouldn't go to strangers' home, but that's a whole other thing. But anyway, and she turned around and she said to me, why are you not doing this for yourself? You should be doing this because everything I've heard is this, and the other. And it's almost that sense of confidence. It's not, this isn't a person who made me go and do or set up the Northern Power Women World community and the Power Collective, but I think sometimes it's just those kind words and those words that make you think differently. And I fundamentally think that mentoring is about helping someone be the best version of themselves. It's not being the best chief exec or the best accountant or the best retailer. It's actually, if you're the best you, then you can kick ass and take on anything. So that's kind of my view. And so I'm high-fiving Laura Morgan out there, an amazing woman, and someone who again I still love and have a friendship with. And I think this is how mentoring relationships can morph. Karen, who was your person?
So when I graduated from uni, I went into the world of work, and obviously at the first it's pretty scary, and I was concerned. And I remember the person who actually interviewed me ended up mentoring me throughout my beginning of the sort of 5 years that I stayed there, and it was fantastic because, as I said, it was quite scary, the world of work at the beginning when you're quite young, but it gave me the confidence. They introduced me to people. They encouraged me to network. They asked me all the whys, why, what do you think? They put the onus back on yourself. So it makes you think, because obviously they've got the answers as a mentor. They know, the answers. Whereas as a mentee, I didn't know the answers, and it makes you go out and find the answers and do the research and make the decisions for yourself. I just didn't really realize that I was actually doing that. And I think that was the fantastic thing about it. It really gave me the confidence.
So I'm wondering, if we go back to the question that we posed at the start of today's conversation, which is the report from Forbes, which is saying that only 37% of professionals have actually had a mentor. I find that quite sort of shocking, disappointing, because 100% of us here today are all totally in for it. The people who are watching online have either looking for a mentor or been part of our Power Up collective, whatever it may be. But Jane, what's stopping us? What's stopping sort of the 63%, there's my best maths for the day, 63% of people out there in the business world not finding a mentor?
I think it's a confusion about terms, actually. I think people are employed to roles initially because they have skills and expertise that fit a gap in the HR structure. And we are kind of geared to thinking about ourselves as experts. And you will learn from your team leaders and your line managers and perhaps your more senior managers. So you are being mentored to a certain extent, but you think it's part of the chain of command kind of thing. The idea of having a mentor which helps you understand the bigger picture and perhaps break some boundaries or to grow into other roles may not be your first and foremost in your mind. And then when perhaps you take on a leadership role and you have teams of people that you're responsible for, you know, quite often you're spending your time looking after all of those people, and you will be giving your mentoring time with perhaps not understanding that that's the title of it, to the people that you're supporting. But again, you're not finding time for yourself. So to take me back to this idea that mentoring is a skill and that you need to focus on your own well-being and to look at support networks almost outside of your own organization, because we're also much more fluid. I have a portfolio career. My career has been built on being able to look outside the boundaries and being able to take some opportunities that I made myself or came to me just because I had a better understanding. My mentors have been people I've trusted and liked. I haven't sought them out specifically because of their expertise, but I have benefited from their generosity. That's the point I've made. But subsequently, I have paid for coaches, and I have been coached and understand that that's an actual investment that I need to make in myself to keep the energy going, to keep me purposeful, to keep me being effective, and to make the right decisions for myself ultimately. So it's a kind of progression from that in-house workplace mentoring into something a bit more refined and disciplined, I suppose.
And Brandie, we talk about that 37% is really bothering me, but are there any sort of top tips out there? You've talked about the resilience of finding Moya. I agree, amazing role model. I used to work across that industry, that sector, and she's just fantastic. But any kind of top tips to overcoming, we know let's get the barriers out, let's kick them out the way. What are the top tips for overcoming those, and let's shift that 37%?
To the point that Karen made earlier, mentoring does happen, but very, very, very informally. So I think it's the education, so everybody understands what form of, because there's super forms of mentoring. So I think once we educate ourselves around what mentoring is, the different types, I am sure the majority of people, certainly women, will say that they're mentored in a way. There's a lot of informal mentoring going on, and we don't actually put it into a category. So I think for me, it's about taking a moment. It only takes a couple of minutes to actually research a little bit about mentoring, and then asking yourself, am I actually being mentored? If you are, then great. If you're not, then it's time to just sort of think through, what do I want? And mentoring isn't for everybody, but it's for most people. What do I want? Where do I want to get to? Who can help me do that? And then either go out and seek for it or allow yourself to be sought. Because I think one of our panelists did say, when they were growing up in their career, offers were given. I know I've given hints to young people when I've spoken, and then you walk away and then nothing happens of it. So we've just got to push the adrenaline on. We've got to inoculate ourselves with a lot of passion and a lot of want to have mentoring, because it is a damn good thing.
It is. And actually, do you know what? I'm gonna speak on behalf of an amazing woman called Olivia Catlow, who used to be part of our team and has gone. She went on. She was a Kickstarter with us, and then when she went on to a new role, she came and engaged with the Power Up mentoring that we do, which is our very short, bite-sized sort of networking sessions. And she puts a lot down to you for the session that she had with you that took her on to that next level. So, I think there's a great thing about hearing those positive stories and sometimes you don't know what you're going into, do you, in that relationship? But that started with a 20-minute conversation, didn't it? So, so thank you for being so amazing in those sessions. But, I just want to pass on her behalf, sort of what you did to help her. I love that. But I think this is testament to the fact that Brandie, you're just talking about different types of mentoring relationships and different lengths, so we talked about the power-ups that Brandie has joined before, but what do you think it is about those short-term mentoring relationships that can just be as impactful as a long-term relationships? Karen, I know this is something that you're doing a lot of Boohoo anyway, but what do you think about sort of those bite-sized short-term ones?
I think they're really good, and I think you get to know each other on a shorter time scale, and you can learn more. You could have more mentors and mentee relationships by having them on shorter time scales, and mix people up and have, with our programs now, we're matching different colleagues throughout Boohoo. And as we said before, mentoring is not for everyone, but the majority of people are being mentored, and maybe don't even realise that they're being mentored, which is obviously fantastic. So, like I say, the short-term mentoring programs are fantastic because we can just, you can be with one person and then you can move on to someone else and learn more life skills and have more experience of life. Really, it can really shape a person's life and bring confidence to the individual. It's such a valued experience to their careers for for short-term periods as well as long-term periods. It's about finding yourself and being yourself and helping people to be the best version of themselves. And I think the shorter period ones are really good at doing that. So, yeah.
I think it helps with that confidence as well. Sometimes that confidence building. I know we can talk a lot about confidence, thinking, oh gosh, you would say that or whatever. Why does it all get associated with, a certain demographic of individual or whatever? But actually, I think we've seen big changes and shifts in how we've interacted over the last few years. And I just think sometimes that bite size can think, oh wow, someone's given their time, their lunch break up to kind of have that conversation with me. And I'm going to reach into the chat. I can see the wonderful Helen Tonks in the chat, who is actually shortlisted in our Mentor of the Year category this year. And we always want these conversations to go away with some top tips as well. So what would you say that anyone out there who's maybe skeptical about mentoring? And that could be taken in different ways, couldn't it? I could be skeptical because I think I haven't got the skills to do it, or I'm skeptical because I haven't got the time to take involved, or what do I don't want to bother anyone. What would you say out there, Jane, to anyone who is anything out there that someone who will convince them into going, you know what, I'm gonna do a Brandie and I'm gonna be tenacious and hunt that person down who I think is absolutely amazing.
Well, I think Brandie's become my new role model, so I need to start doing some of what she's doing, really.
Be more Brandie. I can feel a tote bag with that on already.
Be more Brandie. I think, I think it's probably thinking it's a thing, that mentoring is a thing that's like something you buy or something that is a commodity. It's really down to relationships, and it's about being open to the new relationships, developing trust at work, being open to new ideas. So it's very often a mindset of your own rather than something that somebody can teach you. If you're curious, you want to do better, you want to do well, you want to understand whether actually is my view of this, what's going on around me, an accurate one. Is there a different way? Could they be right? Could that person who's in my face all the time arguing black is white be right? Do I need somebody else just to talk me through this so I can see that perspective so that we can meet together and get a different outcome? I think that's the kind of skill you learn in families. I think we're human beings. Mentoring is something we do. It's just in a workplace environment, it takes on extra weight. What I would say is in an environment where we're more remote, we're more hybridized, that time in the office and absorbing stuff sort of natively is less of an opportunity for people now, that we do have to make a bit of a more formal choice and say, actually, I need to find somebody else in the organization to talk to over a virtual cup of coffee. And that is mentoring, but it's you seeking out, looking at your own challenges, looking at where you think there might be another way, a third path, finding somebody to have a chat to. I think it's going to become increasingly important, and remote working allows us to get in touch with more people faster. So it's a great opportunity.
And Brandie, you were chief exec in the NHS, and I know you have something called legacy mentoring, I think, across the NHS. So talk to us about that, and also what we and people who aren't in the NHS, what can we learn from that? Because I'm a big fan of, it's almost that peer mentoring from an organisation or a sector to another industry, isn't it?
No, absolutely, Simone. I mean, I love legacy mentoring, but can I just say, most organizations are doing this. They just haven't packaged it. You know, some call it induction. You know, when you have that person that you kind of walk around and you go to them when you're stuck. It happens in different forms, except that within the NHS we've got it packaged. Okay, so this works on the premise that you are preparing new leaders to carry on goals. So that you have continuity in the organization. It exists mainly in the clinical colleagues, but you know there are other forms of mentoring for non-clinical teams as well. But the legacy mentors are experienced colleagues, and I think that's the trick. They're experienced colleagues. Some of them have been doing their job for even before I was born. They know everything, to be fair, and they work in the regulated aspect of the organizations, you know, when it's where it's really high intensity. And what they do, they provide mentoring, but they also provide coaching. We talked earlier about that fine balance, you know, that blurred line. They also provide coaching, and majority of them provide pastoral support for any of the new colleagues that are at the beginning of their career. Now, a lot of these legacy mentors are actually in the twilight of their career. You've got to understand that about 30% of NHS employees are over 50. And so it was a matter of do something now to be able to get the generation to carry on. They help with professional advice. There's a lot of CPD, continuous personal development in the NHS. So they allow the young ones coming, the junior ones coming in the ranks to understand what could be good for them. So they're continuously learning. They pass on legacies around, oh yes, we did that, it didn't work because of, and so this is how we would do it next time. And it just allows for inheritance of great examples. For me, the biggest part of this is that whole intergenerational diversity. It gives a lot of age diversity from that perspective. And I think corporates, organizations, businesses, small businesses, individuals can all learn from it. But let's also say that this does happen in organizations. It just hasn't got a package to it. So I would say if there's an organization that's got something informally or semi-formal, package it around legacy mentoring, and then maybe just copy and paste. Hey, learning is just a matter of someone's done it, I like it, so I'm going to do the same. And then copy and paste it into your organization, because there's a lot of stuff. It actually plugs a lot of skill gaps as well. So no, I absolutely love it.
We could tell, and we love that you love it. That's why we wanted you on the webinar today. And I think there's, for me, that I think the that could translate in, it feels like a relay almost, doesn't it? It's almost kind of, let's make sure we get round this, irrespective of whether it's a long term, like you say, the age in NHS is a lot older, but actually you feel like that could translate into younger industries, or even, you know, sort of even learning while at college or uni. You feel like that kind of, if you're in a university cycle or a college cycle or an apprenticeship cycle, you feel like that could be adopted there with that kind of baton passing. And, you know, talking about that sort of those short-term mentoring relationships that you still want that legacy for, Karen, you know, any top tips that we could pass on there, that if we are building a short-term relationship, what are the top tips for building that trust, I suppose? I think because trust comes at the part of it, doesn't it? Any tips there?
I think it's being open and honest with yourself, and you know, with your mentor. And I think some people see it as that if they have to have a mentor, they're not good enough, and they're not good enough at the job, which is absolutely not true. I think having a mentor and building the trust and the rapport is absolutely massive, and is one of the big key areas to focus on in getting that trust, getting that confidence, and having the ability to, you know, have those frank conversations with your mentor and asking them, you know, for what they've experienced, because that's the whole point of it, isn't it? You're learning from them, you're being guided, and thinking for yourself as well, because you probably know the answers. It's just obviously getting the answers, you know, that you think you need to get to. But yeah, like I said, it's about finding yourself, being yourself, and being open and honest and not judgmental.
I think that I like that. I think that honest and open, I think that even comes to sort of, if you like, don't think of it as contracting with a big C, but contracting with a little c right at the start, where you go, well, actually, should we try this for 1 hour? Should we try this for 3 weeks? Should we try this for, I think if you're honest with that approach, then both parties know exactly where they're at. And that's irrespective of your, someone who is either, is studying, that's someone who is having a break point in their career, someone who is going, I just want to do something different. I think if we start with that in mind, I think that gives us, sort of great kind of, we know where we're at, don't we? We're on the same page there. And Jane, how can mentors make the most, and still sort of sticking with that short-term mentoring relationship, but how can you've been a massive supporter of the power-ups that we do, and this is not just plugging those, there's lots of ways to have that, coffee and connect, if you like, or but how can mentors make the most of those limited, or mentors and mentees make the most of that limited time in that relationship?
I think it's about showing up and just being there, and not having a fixed idea of where you need to get to. So all the work I do with Northern Power Women is a huge privilege to me, and I've enjoyed helping school children, school pupils, and senior business people alike. But the common theme through all of them is just being there and being open-hearted, open-minded, and listening, because the conversations always develop a life of their own. And that's as your mentee tests with you, exactly if you've listened to them or if you've seen them. And then they will start revealing more about themselves. And then you find yourself learning so much more about life than you didn't know before. So it is a two-way exchange, and it has two-way benefit. So yeah, in short, I'd just say just keep turning up and doing it.
I love that. Keep turning up, keep showing up. I think that's really important. Lucy in the chat has asked, how would you approach a mentor when asking for mentorship? I know this is how we talked about how you approached Moya Green, Brandie, but anyone else you've rugby tackled along the way?
Who is 20 years old, and I tabbed her. And I think, Lucy, what I would say is remember that, yes, they are providing mentoring for you, but they're also getting a great deal of stuff from you. Yeah, so it's a two-way relationship. So without them saying a lot to you, without a mentor saying a lot to a mentee, a mentor goes away fulfilled as much as a mentee is. So I would say, as long as you know what you want and you're sure what you want, don't worry too much about approaching your mentor, because they would just suck it up and they will take you on idea. There is a lot for them to gain out of it. But I think it's one of those things that, we get a real hang up on. So Lucy, if there's somebody bubbling around your mind, go for it. What's the worst they can say to you? No? Well, then you move to the next person. If you haven't got an idea who you want to, but you have an idea, the industry that you want to get a mentor from as well, then dig into that deeper and explore. The worst that can happen is nothing happens. But I don't think that at all. Something will happen for you.
Do you know what I find that when we do our sessions, we always end up with more mentors than mentees, because we've got this completely limitless supply of kick-ass role models out there. And sometimes even if there might be a no along the way, it's actually just more of a not now, because I've taken on too much or I've got too many. But actually, I know a woman or man who can. And I've literally found that time and time again. So Lucy, ask. Please go onto our Power platform, wearepower.net. We've got thousands of amazing people on there, or drop us a line, reach out on LinkedIn. I think just people do want to help and people do want to support without a shadow of a doubt. I'm going back to our Helen has just Helen Tonks, because she's done a 2-for-1 on the question. She's asked one, but she's getting another one. What have been your biggest learnings and takeaways as mentors to date? Karen, can I come to you first?
Yeah, I think the biggest learns and takeaways from being a mentor is seeing your mentee thrive and develop and the confidence that they've got, and when they're, especially in the world of work, you see them being promoted, you see them happy, and it's you almost build a friendship with them after you finish mentoring, because I don't think you'll ever finish mentoring them officially. It's just fantastic to see them thrive.
And what about you, Jane? What would you sort of say is that? What's your biggest takeaway? I know you get involved in mentoring, coaching, sponsorship in different forms, but if we talk about that mentor approach, what's your biggest takeaway?
I think I'd agree is that realization that somebody you like and you've been able to help them has been able to make a difference or do something better or get or make a career change or be brave and the fact that they're delighted by it and will share that with you is tremendous, and that's the bit that I enjoy the most. I think the biggest learning though is that that trust is absolutely essential. Any mentoring program that is a bit of a beauty contest about who can get closest to the chief executive, and I've seen those work in organizations and they can become a little bit toxic, are not mentoring programs. That's about careerism. So my learning would be find a shared problem, find something that you want to resolve, something that's actionable, reach out to somebody who might be able to help you with that particular issue, and then a lovely relationship will bloom from that because you've solved something together.
And I think that you just touched on something there as well, is mentoring doesn't have to just sit inside an organization, outside sort of this goes back to the start, doesn't it? Is mentoring forms in different forms. It could, and what do you think is the most effective, Jane? Do you think it's in work, outside of work, or all of the above?
They both have their uses, and it depends what problems you're trying to solve. I think where I'm most useful for people is people who are finding that they've outgrown their role and need to make a change. And actually that's quite scary, and it also feels a bit disloyal, but they've outgrown their effectiveness in their current role. So my job is to say, well, let's look at all your talents and let's look at all the opportunities and make some decisions. And when people are free from feeling that they've got to perform in a situation where they're being constrained, and you see them flying, it's absolutely thrilling for me.
And Brandie, 89% of people who are mentored go on to mentor themselves. We talk a lot about paying it forward. You yourself are part of a reverse mentoring program as one of your 3 mentoring relationships. What would you say to someone who kind of wants to make that step? Do you think short term is a good way to start? Oh, you're on mute, Brandie. It's all right. You were just on mute for a small while, but we had to have one of them.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, so facts are facts, aren't they? Steve Jobs mentored Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg has now got 12 mentees. Maya Angelou famously mentored Oprah. Oprah has got a waiting list now for mentees. Warren Buffett mentored Bill Gates. Bill Gates now has a string of mentees. I'm going to throw myself into this pot of these amazing people and go, I was mentored and I have some mentees. So I think the facts are facts. It does happen. Whether or not it's a long term or a short term, I think it's whatever works for you. But what I would say is for anybody thinking about this, go in deep and go in with, because the only thing you need, there's only 3 things you need to be a good mentor, in my opinion. It's passion, it's the ability to support and the ability to listen and show people the how and not the what. If you can do these 3 things, then go in all deep and then give it your very best, because you're going to be paying it forward, and the person that you're mentoring is going to go on, your mentee is going to go on and pay it forward as well. And everybody's going to win, aren't they, from that perspective?
And you just said that is the last question. If you like, what are the 3 things that you would take into any relationship? So, Brandie, you say passion, the ability to support, and the show the how, not the what. Jane, what do you add to that? What's the ingredients into that relationship?
I think it's about being open-hearted, being a good listener, and asking wise questions.
And Karen?
Trust and confidence, and actively listening to the mentee and the mentor.
And you know what? I'm just looking at Dr. Kate Allett. I connected with her at the weekend on LinkedIn. Please watch her TED Talk. I'll try and remember to share it later, but an amazing TED Talk. Unless, Kate, you're quick enough to pop it in the link now, but it's amazing. But I think that whole Kate talks about being open and actively listening is how you engage and develop these meaningful relationships. And that's in any way, shape or form. I've really, really, really enjoyed you all being part of this conversation today. I never know where the time goes, but we always encourage to keep this conversation going. Stay connected. Please join the conversation. Please engage. If you're nervous about having a mentor or not sure whether, it's for you, it is. There's always something that you can give or gain. Whether you're a mentor, there's always something you can pass on. There's always something you can learn. Some of the most very experienced mentors I've got always come away going, oh my gosh, I learned so much. So please show up. Please pass it on. Please help. I love that being seeing them. And the trust is essential. A massive, massive thanks to Karen, to Jade, to Brandie. Thanks to all of you for watching and supporting us today. Thank you for Boohoo for bringing our webinar. Please stay connected on everything we do on our Power platform. We are power.net, and I will see you next time. Thank you for joining us.